become background music to my life. I knew every backup circuit, every emergency protocol, every aging switch that needed replacing before anyone else noticed. I was halfway through patching a firewall when my headset buzzed. "Nora," my brother Gavin snapped. "Where are you?" "Server room." "Of course you are. Dad's laptop crashed. Investor call in 15 minutes. I'm updating the network." "I'm asking nicely," he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "Move." I saved my progress and climbed 4 flights of stairs. My father's office looked exactly the way wealthy men wanted success to look. Dark wood, expensive art, floor-to-ceiling windows. He didn't even glance up when I entered. "Presentation won't open." I touched the keyboard. "You deleted the application shortcut." 5 seconds later, the file loaded perfectly. "Fixed," I said. He nodded at the screen instead of me. Outside, my sister Claire intercepted me. "My tablet stopped syncing," she said. "You changed the settings." I was trying to save battery. I restored everything in less than a minute. "Oh," she added casually, "don't forget tomorrow's shareholders meeting." I organized the entire tech setup for it. She adjusted her blazer, still, tried to look more executive. Then she disappeared down the hallway. I looked down at my jeans and company polo. To them, I was the girl who fixed printers, the one who rebooted conference systems, the daughter hidden behind cables while everyone else stood under spotlights. None of them knew the truth. 3 years earlier, my grandfather's attorney had handed me a sealed envelope after the funeral. Inside had been documents transferring control of the Whitmore family trust into my name on my 23rd birthday. 73% of the investment assets, enough to determine the future of everything. Grandfather had left a note. "Learn how things work before you decide how they should change." So I stayed quiet. I watched, I listened, I waited. The morning of the shareholders meeting, I arrived before sunrise. I tested microphones, verified backups, checked failover systems, made sure every presentation could survive a power outage. At 7:30, Gavin stormed into the conference room carrying coffee. "My forecast model is acting up." I examined his spreadsheet. "You can't predict 10 years of growth using 6 months of speculative data." He sighed dramatically. "Then make the warnings disappear. The assumptions are flawed." "No one wants assumptions," he replied. "They want confidence." I walked away without answering. By afternoon, the boardroom filled, directors, senior advisors, longtime investors. My father sat at the head of the table. Claire reviewed client reports. Gavin stood ready beside the projector. I remained near the controls, invisible. My father opened with polished remarks about performance and opportunity. Then Gavin took center stage. "I'd like to introduce our newest initiative," he announced, "a $200 million expansion into emerging technology and digital assets. The upside potential is extraordinary." A board member leaned forward. "What about downside exposure?" "Limited," Gavin answered smoothly. "Maximum drawdown around 15%. I spoke before I could stop myself. "Only if the assets remain uncorrelated." Room turned. Gavin stared. I continued. "When markets panic, speculative sectors move together. Under stress, losses could exceed 40%. "Nora," my father said sharply, "this discussion isn't your responsibility. It should be someone's." Before anyone responded, the conference room doors opened. A familiar voice interrupted. "I believe it is." Elias Mercer, my grandfather's attorney, entered carrying several folders. He distributed copies around the table. "Under the Whitmore Asset Trust, effective upon Nora Whitmore's 23rd birthday, ownership of the investment portfolio transferred entirely to her." Silence spread through the room. Claire's expression drained of color. Gavin laughed nervously. "What joke is this?" "It isn't one," Mercer replied. "The operating company remains under existing leadership. However, any investment strategy involving trust assets requires Nora's approval." My father slowly lowered the papers. "You knew?" "I knew eventually mattered more than immediately," I answered. Gavin pushed back his chair. "You let us build this proposal. I let you reveal it." I looked around the room. "My answer is no." One director cleared her throat. "Move that this initiative be suspended pending independent review." Another agreed, then another. Hands rose around the table. The vote passed. Everything changed after that. The following week, I hired an outside auditing team. We reviewed years of positions, measured exposures. questioned assumptions that no one had challenged simply because important people had made them. For months, we rebuilt from the foundation upward. The goal wasn't excitement, it was resilience. The server room remained my refuge. Whenever board meetings became exhausting, I'd return downstairs and sit among the machines. Systems didn't care about ego, they either worked or they failed. Gavin resigned before the year ended. He accepted a position elsewhere, still chasing dramatic returns and impossible promises. Claire surprised me. She returned after time away with genuine humility. She excelled with clients because she understood people better than numbers. I placed her in charge of relationships, just not risk. Quarter by quarter, results improved, volatility decreased, performance strengthened. Investors stopped celebrating luck and started appreciating discipline. One evening, my father appeared outside my office. He carried an old photograph of himself and grandfather standing beside their first tiny storefront. "I made mistakes," he said quietly. "I waited. I'm better with people than portfolios." I almost laughed. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever received. "If you'll have me," he continued, "I'd like to stay." I looked through the glass wall toward employees finishing their work. "Stay," I said. "You lead the company." I'll protect what built it." The first time in years, we weren't fighting over control. We were finally using the strengths we'd spent decades misunderstanding. New policies followed. Large investments required independent review. Risk committees gained authority. Outside voices challenged internal assumptions. Governance became procedure instead of personality. A year after that shareholders meeting, Whitmore Holdings reported its strongest and most stable performance in history. After the announcement, my father stood beside me overlooking the city. "Your grandfather would be proud of you," he said. I thought about the basement, about long nights replacing failed hardware while executives forgot my name, about learning in silence while others performed certainty. Then I smiled. "I know," I said. Later that evening, I returned downstairs alone. The servers still hummed. Indicator lights still blinked in steady rhythms. The machinery hadn't changed. Neither had the lesson grandfather left behind. Understand what keeps things running. Take care of what others ignore. Be patient enough to learn. And when your moment finally arrives, don't hesitate to act.